Okay, this is part two. So I'm talking about the Neptune superconjunction, particularly Neptune conjunct the North Node and Saturn conjunct the North Node, that in history it's meant big resets, particularly resets of a financial nature when we talk about the fall of communism, the rise of the EU as a trade bloc, and the beginning of neoliberalism, and also the crash in 2008 and how that might affect us now. And I was saying about this guy, Gary's Economics, who's suddenly being amplified everywhere just because he's talking about taxes on the rich, which he really means the middle class, potentially the entrepreneurs, and that. And I mean, aren't they always talking in England about we must attract skilled people? What skilled person wants to come here and be taxed to death? It's totally counterproductive. He also talks about tax rises as if the whole problem we're facing is just because the government doesn't collect enough money. The government is the problem, as people have said many times. If the government was in charge of the Sahara Desert, there'd be a shortage of sand. The government wastes money hand over foot. Not only does it divert money to their rich sponsors, because there's so many people that donate to Labour and have vested interest, much money is diverted to billionaires. I think even Richard Branson wrote in his book that a large quantity of his wealth was down to his ability to gain government contracts. It wastes money on things like HS2. The NHS is a huge pit of waste. No matter how much you put in the NHS, it's never enough. The government sends money into Ukraine. It sponsors the military-industrial complex. It sponsors things like white helmets, which interfere in other countries. So to think that the only problem we have is the government just aren't raising enough tax, the problem is the government misuse money. The government are not productive. The government have some of the most incompetent people in the world. If you want to know how to get a job, to continually fail, but to keep either getting promoted or moved department, then you belong in government. Because that's all that happens. We have failures in one department simply being ushered into a new department where they continue to fail. You look at the clowns we have in government. We have the lowest capability level in government. To think Rachel Reeves, I didn't like Sunak as Chancellor, but he had credentials. He was the recipient of a Fulbright scholarship. He studied economics. Compared to Rachel Reeves, it gets worse. So you want to take more money off millionaires who some of them might be corrupt and crony, some of them may actually have skills which have enabled them to use that money, and the money would therefore be better in their hands to create jobs. You're going to put it in the hands of government who ruin everything, who can take vast amount of money and have a huge capacity to destroy productivity, to destroy wealth, and to invest in projects that are white elephants that go nowhere and are actually ruining this country. Ed Miliband, net zero, money for huge carbon extraction machines, which is basically something trees do for free. This is the kind of thinking. In fact, the whole net zero is basically King Canute science. If you know what King Canute is, that'll make sense to you. They waste money on wind farms. All they know how to do in government is waste money, and there's no accountability because all the parties basically back each other up. So how do you hold government accountable? How do you withhold your tax until they collapse and a new system comes upon us? So this whole Gary's thing, making it all about, basically the government just need more money. They print more and they borrow more. They don't need more money. Then we get to the problem of how, in the past, where did economic advancement come from? Well, there was the Industrial Revolution, all the transport improvements with trains and factories being built, and that created the middle class, the managerial class of people who could get skilled employment in factories. It created wealth. Another example was improvements in manufacturing and health in the 60s. We had the tech boom created wealth. Maggie Thatcher with I think they called it the Big Bang when she deregulated the city. It created wealth because of all the array of new financial interests. Some of that probably wasn't good. But you see how all these things create wealth. You need some external discovery, a discovery of a new resource, a technological advancement, in old days probably a discovery of a new country, new trade routes to create wealth. But right now, they have offshored about as much as they can. For example, clothes that were once made in the UK, made for pennies overseas and imported in. I mean, call centres, they don't have them in the UK. They have in third world countries where they pay people a fraction of the price. They've offshored nearly all manufacturing, so they can't keep gaining from doing that. That's nearing the end now. So where does the next gain come from? This country sold off most of its assets, sold off the gold very cheaply, natural resources they don't want to take advantage of, like North Sea oil and coal. So where does the next big win come from? Their big idea now with the economy is just mass immigration to import people. And they've created an industry around the migrant crisis through all the hotels that are fully booked all the time, the transport, all the people get employed busing these guys in and out, the food, the catering, the mattresses, the sanitation. There's a whole industry that's basically sprung up against bringing migrants in, right? But I mean, how long in Ireland, massive construction to build new homes for migrants. But this is all coming out the taxpayer's purse. Anything the government is spending money from isn't by definition productive. They're spending money that was never theirs to spend. They're meant to provide services and provide a safe environment for people in the country and to provide a conducive environment for entrepreneurs to flourish. Government do not create wealth. Government just create spending which is inflationary, and any money that the industries that they are creating around migration, blah, 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 it's just fueling inflation, which is an indirect form of taxation because it's continually reducing your wealth. And now, with the whole stock market, well, the FTSE's barely grown. I think in the 1999, it was around 6,000 points, and it's just dipped back into the 6,000, hasn't even gone far into the 7,000. So no real wealth is being generated. So what I'm saying is the big problem in an economy is you have to have productivity. Productivity comes from people who are ingenious and productive. We have less of those people, and the population is actually becoming, unfortunately, dumber, and too many people doing worthless degrees, too few people with valuable skills. The productivity is dropping. So many people are mentally unfit to work, huge amounts of people on disability. These are huge structural problems for the economy. You need a vibrant workforce who are extremely productive and lots of risk takers willing to start businesses. And in this environment, no one wants to start a business. Penalized by tax, penalized by business rates, penalized by net zero. Less and less risk takers will take out loans and start businesses. So while I think there are a lot of corrupt, wealthy people out there who benefit from government contracts or from other nefarious means, there are wealthy people out there who deserve that money because they had the idea and they took the risk. And under a capitalist society, those people need to be rewarded because that sort of initiative needs to be encouraged to grow economies. Yeah, so that's why I think we're in for a big reset right now. If this triggers over into a panic in the bond market because of less liquidity, because of the stock market troubles, there's nowhere else for the government to go with QE. So we're looking at a very difficult time, and interest rates will rise. Interest rates only need to rise a little for people to have problem with their mortgage payment, which leads us exactly to where we always thought we were going. Universal basic income, BlackRock buying up the homes, them getting rid of private property ownership, you will own nothing, and introducing a society where people are much more dependent on the state because they're renting from either the state or BlackRock. They have less independent income because they're mainly relying on UBI, and you have a very controlled society, which is what we suspected would all happen. And perhaps this is leading to it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm fast and furious, I know. Some quality stuff there that I hope you guys all enjoyed.